G'day and welcome to 2023. I wanted to kick this year off by making a bold prediction about 2023. And if you read the title or saw the thumbnail, you've probably already guessed what that is. A little bit of context, I've been very vocal about the state of REYNA at the professional level, and I didn't think I would ever find myself in a position where I would be predicting that she would be not only a relevant part of the meta, but potentially a very, very integral part of the meta in 2023, at least in its current state. We've been lucky enough over the past few weeks to have a small sample of matches on the 5.12 patch, and it's because of that patch and some other things throughout 2022 that have brought me to this prediction. Let's get into it. If you don't know me, hi, I'm Stacky. I'm a coach in the tier 2 Valorant scene, and we're going to get straight into this fun little video. So the case for REYNA, an unexpected start to 2023. So the state of REYNA in 2022, player perception at many, many levels is REYNA's a selfish character. Her utility allows for her to have chances for unpunishable aggression by getting kills, dismissing or healing away the damage. And if you're the best player in a ranked lobby, i.e. a smurf, or maybe you're just having a great day, maybe you're climbing through the ranks, you're able to absolutely dominate lobbies by getting yourself into good positions, aim diffing your opponents, any risky sort of situations you're able to dismiss and get out of. And the lower the ranks that you get, the more problematic this becomes, because compounding that is her Leah, which also gets more and more valued the worse and worse shooters that your opponents are, because they have a hard time flicking to it and readjusting their crosshair back to where you're peeking from. However, at the pro level, because the skill is so high, it's a lot harder for REYNA to get value out of her kit. And because there's such a priority on movement abilities at that level, because they're so needed in breaking down high level sight holds, it just hasn't really been a good reason to pick REYNA over Jett, Neon, or Raze, the premier duelists of 2022. And it's because of their ability to burst into sight with their movement abilities, create space for their team, chaos for the defenders. And that has been the integral way that Valorant has been played at the top level in 2022. Now, in 2022, we started to see some shifts. The first thing that I want to bring your attention to is the 5.07 patch, where Riot made some adjustments to only one of REYNA's abilities, Leah. Now, these were small adjustments, but in the long run, I think they're going to have some really large impacts. So they just reshaped Leah a little bit. They buffed it in one area and nerfed it in another, and they gave it a little bit more identity. And this was an overall positive change for REYNA. And then very recently, the 5.12 patch hit. This is the patch where they heavily targeted Chamber. All of his abilities got nerfed. The biggest impact is the rework so that his anchor, instead of being two separate anchors that you would teleport between, you just now teleport to the sole anchor, and there's a 13-meter range around that. And they also added a range restriction to his trademark, denying him that complete global presence, which was a huge factor in the way that Chamber was able to work the map. And the trademark was a huge part of the way that Chamber's playstyle developed. Because it had the global range, you had the freedom to go anywhere that you wanted. And now that has been restricted. And Chamber's new identity has been brought more in line with what Valorant's idea of a sentinel is, where they're locking down an area of the map. But of course, the major part of what made Chamber so oppressive through 2022 was trade denial and the operator. Now, prior to Chamber, there was Jett. Jett used to not have to activate her dash. She could just use it at any point, and it plagued the game, much as Chamber did. A lot of similarities in the way that Chamber and Jett would play, specifically on defense, holding aggressive angles with the operator, being able to get free picks and dash away without being traded. Now, for the first time, because of this 5.12 patch and other patches before it, we are heading into 2023 where the state of the game does not require you to have Jett or Chamber on almost every map. So this combination of the trade denial and the operator still exists, but it is in no way as strong as it has been in the past, which allows for exciting changes and shifts in the meta. And there's a few agents now that can still play a form of this role in the game. And so if teams decide that it's important for them that in 2023, on particular maps that they decide they need an agent that can fill this role, they've got a few options. Jett Chamber, Yoru, REYNA, and Omen all have an ability with some form of trade denial in some aspect. Now we're going to delve a little bit into the design of these abilities, and what you'll notice is that there's two main components for each of them. There's the strength of the ability when it's used, how powerful it is, how much value can you get out of it, versus the constraint that is put upon it. And the better the ability, the tighter the constraint. So let's start with Jet. Jet's Tailwind is an instant dash that goes for 10 meters. As soon as you press your ability, you can't be damaged until the dash is finished. You get one of them, plus you get another one for every 2 kills in the round, and it's a signature ability. That's pretty strong. And that's the reason why Jet was so dominant in Valorant for so long before they added this constraint. You must first activate the dash ability now. So the first time that you press Tailwind, there's a little 0.75 second wind up, and then you only have 12 seconds where you can use your dash. Otherwise, it's gone, it's wasted. So you have to pick the moment within the round that you want to use it. So now let's look at Chamber. Chamber, when he activates it, there's a 0.1 second wind up where you can still be shot with Chamber, but you get a 13 meter range on that teleporter. You get one of them and it's free. And the constraint is that you must place the anchor first and be within the range, but there's no time limit. And so the outcome of that is that Chamber can only use his trade denial within a certain area on the map. And that leans into the sentinel identity that he has in terms of like locking down an area. Next, we have Yoru. There's a wind up time of 0.5 seconds, which is very, very tradable. You get 2 of them. The first one is free. That's his signature ability. If you want to buy a second, it costs you 200 credits. But just like Jet, Yoru gets an extra gate crash for every 2 kills that he gets in a round. So you can have up to 5 gate crashes in a round if you get a 6K and one of them's after the last kill. So the constraint for that is that Yoru must first place his tether, and then you get a 30-second activation window. So in terms of trade denial, not as effective as Jet or Chambers. So he gets a longer window, a more flexible use, and there's other things that you can do with gate crash to compensate that. Now let's come to REYNA, who this video is obviously about. You guys are probably dying to hear what I have to say about this. The advantages that you get with gate crash is that there's no range limiter on it, so you can use it all over the map. The wind up for REYNA's ability is instant. So just like Jet, the strongest version of that category. The distance is 2 seconds movement in any direction. Running as you normally would. So this is a really flexible option, whether you want to go forward or back around a corner. You can come forward and back and peek corners with it. Lots of flexibility, lots of uses, very, very strong. You can have 2 of them. The stock is tied in with the Devour, which is the heal. And the first one is free. Second one, like Yoru, is 200 credits. But the constraint is the tightest of all of these agents here. You have to get a kill or an assist, and then you have a 3-second activation window. So you can only use this effectively when you are in a fight, but you get a super strong ability if you are able to match the prerequisite. And then lastly, we have Omen. Wind up time of 0.7 seconds, super slow for Omen, but you do get 15 meters. You can get 2 shrouded steps on Omen, and they're 100 credits each. And there's no constraint. You can just use it whenever you like. And in terms of trade denial, it's not necessarily the primary function of Omen's shrouded step, but it's definitely a way that it can be used. And because it's not the primary function, the wind up time is quite slow, giving your enemies ample opportunity to shoot you if you're not behind cover. And so taking that all into account, you can see the importance and the rationale behind the nerfs to Jet and Chamber. Without these heavy constraints on Jet and Chamber's abilities, their strength in the trade denial aspect of all of these abilities is through the roof, much, much stronger. And the ability to get a free pick and get out safely and reset far outweighs the flexibility that you might see on these other pieces of util. Now, of course, you have to take into account whole agent design when you're balancing each agent's kit of utility, but the ability to be able to deny a trade is so strong that it carried both Jet and Chamber to the top of the tier list for so long. And I'm really excited to see the opportunities that some of these other agents have. And who I think has a really great opportunity, very surprising to me, as surprising as REYNA's face here, is REYNA. And so, like I just said before, in comparison to all the other agents' trade denial abilities, the prerequisite for dismiss made the trade-off not worth it, because Jet and Chamber just had a much better version. You would have Pre-nerf Jet, you would be able to scale up like REYNA, but you had the huge advantage that even if you missed your shot, you were able to dash away and get safety. And for Chamber, it was the same thing. He didn't have the ability to just walk up on angles, but he was able to lock down very forward angles and teleport all the way back. The distance that he would get would be the biggest advantage for Chamber. And so with those balance patches, REYNA now sits in a very interesting position where she has the most flexible trade denial ability, and all of the other trade denial util have such a big restriction or aren't nearly as effective in that moment. And so all of that combined makes REYNA as a pick worth considering. And so if a team really values that playstyle on any given map, I think REYNA could be the best option. And what maps could that be? Well, Icebox, Haven, and Fracture, I think, are all maps where REYNA could find a home as a common pick in the meta. Split as well, potentially, depending on the rework. I don't want to lock that one in yet. And I want to add something at the end here to this prediction. In the essence of REYNA being high risk, high reward kind of character with her constraint and the powerfulness of her ability, is that I'm going to make my prediction more specific. Now that's a higher risk, but if I'm correct on all fronts, I'll feel even better about it. And so what I want to add is if REYNA finds her way into the meta, it'll be in as a secondary duelist. And so it'll be sort of a hybrid of what Jet and Chamber have looked like in the past. The movement abilities of Jet, Raze, and Neon will continue to take dominance, but REYNA will be there to support with her Leah and her ability to play in these off angles and create picks. So there you have it. That is my prediction for 2023. We'll come back and review this at the end of the year and we'll see how we went. I am a little bit nervous about this. I'm very curious to see how it plays out. It's not a prediction that I ever thought that I would be making, but I think it's such a good indicator for the game that if even REYNA, who is this character who's sort of been touted and has this stigma of having no pro level viability, if she's able to find her place in the meta through a specific playstyle and advantages that only she can bring, then that means that the Valorant meta is heading in the right direction where each agent can bring their own unique strengths to the table and find their place in the game at every level. Doesn't mean that she's going to change in ranked at all. You'll just see her being used as a duelist, smurfing on kids. But at the pro level, I think it's an interesting space to watch. That's me for today, guys. Thank you so much. If you want to come join me on my Twitch stream, you can do that. Link is below. Stay tuned for more videos. Please subscribe if you like the content. We just finished the 1Pro Invitational analysis where I broke down some rounds for each map at that event. Go check that out, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.